Hello, guitarist Miles Okazaki here. This video goes along with a book that I wrote called Fundamentals of Guitar, and I'm going to talk a little bit about tuning the guitar. The part of the book that goes along with this is on pages 10 to 11. Tuning the guitar by ear is useful in all kinds of situations. You might be tuning to a piano that's a little bit out of tune, to A440 or whatever, or some other kind of instrument. You just want to be able to get the guitar quickly and accurately in tune to whatever kind of reference pitch you're dealing with and not be relying on some kind of machine or something like that. So the first thing to talk about is the open strings of the guitar, which is usually what we use to tune it, right? I want to get the open strings in tune. What are the open strings? The open strings are E, A, D, G, B, E in standard tuning. Okay, 6 notes, but 2 of them are the same, right? So 5 different notes, and those 5 different notes are the notes of the G major pentatonic scale, or the E minor pentatonic scale, however you want to think about it. Why is this significant? Well, the pentatonic scale is kind of a fundamental structure in music. You know, you hear it all over the place, all cultures and things like that. And why? Maybe because you can build it very easily from perfect fifths, right? So if you start with G and you build perfect fifths up, G, D, A, E, B, right? G, D, A, E, B, and then you have the whole scale, you have all the open strings of the guitar, right? The reason I'm talking about building in perfect fifths is that when you tune a guitar with harmonics, like this, I'm using the harmonics on the 5th and 7th frets of the guitar, and bass players do this as well. What you're doing is you're stacking fifths, basically. You're doing that. When I compare the E that's on the 7th fret of the A string to the E that's on the 5th fret of the harmonic on the 5th fret of the E string, I'm stacking that E onto the A. You know, I'm getting the partial from A, and I'm comparing it to the partial from E. Now, what partial is it? Just a little bit of technical stuff here, which is if I'm on my A string, this is the fundamental, open string. Second partial is at the 12th fret, right? It's halfway down the string. Third partial is the E. Third partial creates a perfect fifth, right? Perfect fifth in relation to the second partial. What is that number? What is a perfect fifth in terms of the actual frequency? Well, it's kind of cool. I mean, basically, the guitar here, this is the length of the string, right? I'll do it like this. Here's the length of the string. And if you go halfway, right here, this is half, right? You get the octave. If you go this way, now I have 2/3 of the string here, and I got 1/3 here, right? 2/3 here and 1/3 here, and I'm getting my third partial. The frequency in relation to the second partial is the inverse of this string relationship. This is 2 to 3. 3 is the whole length, right? But the ratio of the frequency is 3 to 2, meaning it's 3/2 the frequency of this. So if this is 110, this is 220, right? This is 330. 330 is 3/2 of 220. Okay, sorry about all that. You can ignore all that if you didn't want to think about it. But that's just to get you into a little bit of the science, and there's way more of that in the book, as much as you want. Okay? Anyway, the point of that is to say that these are pure intervals. They're just intonation intervals, which is not the same way that these frets are put on here. These frets are put on here in a logarithmic system, which is the system of equal temperament. Equal temperament is, you know, what most of our modern instruments, Western instruments and stuff are built in, like a piano, right? And the way these are spaced is a little bit different from what I just played. For example, this E, this is the third partial on the A string, is a little different from this E that's on the 7th fret of the A string. I mean, ignoring the octave difference, but this, if you were to look at a tuner and see where they are, you can do this on a tuner at home. This, if your guitar is set up correctly, this harmonic should be about 2 cents sharper than this fretted note. Okay? So the consequence of that is that when you tune with harmonics, and you tune the whole guitar with harmonics. What you're doing is you're using a system to tune the strings that may not necessarily match up with the way the frets are laid out. Like you may end up coming up with some results that don't sound in tune, you know, even though you did use these perfect intervals, which are very nice to hear, but they're not actually what we play all the time. Okay, this may be a little bit too much of the science, so I'm going to go into a little bit of the practice. Okay, let me do an example. Let's get this out of tune. Guitar's out of tune. Tuning fork. Okay, I take a tuning fork. Here's A440. Okay, I'm comparing I'm getting the fourth partial off the A string, which should be 440. Okay, that's pretty close. It doesn't matter too much how close I am to the tuning fork. What matters is how I do the rest of it. So now I'm comparing the fourth partial of the A string to the third partial of the D string. Right? I'm stacking my fifths. You can hear the beats. Whoa, 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 whoa. When I get to the beats, disappear. Okay, I did my D and G string. Now I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go to the E string. I'm comparing the fourth partial of the E string to the fifth partial of the A string, right? I'm sorry, fourth partial of the E string to the third partial of the A string. Okay? Now I'm going to go to I'll get the open E string too while I'm at it. Now I'm going to get the B string. I'm going to go from the third partial of the low E string and just compare it to the open B string. Oops, not that one. There we go. Okay. Okay, good. Now, just like this, I might think the guitar is in tune. Okay? So, what I've done, think about that chain again. G, D, A, E, B. That's what I just did. I started in the middle, actually, on the A. And first, I went A, D, G, right? I went down the chain. I tuned the D to the A, and then I tuned the G to the D, right? And then I went back to the middle, and I went up the chain. I tuned the E to the A, and then I tuned the B to the E, right? So starting with that, the reference was right in the middle of the chain, the A, right? And I went both directions up that chain with perfect fifths, okay? How about if I play a G chord? Sounds horrible. It's out of tune, okay? Clearly it's out of tune. Why is it out of tune? Well, the reason is, what are the most important notes of this G chord in order for it to sound in tune? It's the G and the B, right? You know, the root and the third. Root and the third are if you think of that chain, they're at opposite ends of that chain. The G is at the bottom, and the B is all the way at the top. That means that each of those steps that I took is getting off by like 2 cents each time. And by the time I get up to that B, I'm way off from the G, right? So if I compare two things that are actually supposed to be the same pitch on those two strings, like the fifth partial of G string, which is a B, and the fourth partial of the B string, which is also a B, I'll do that here. Right? They're a lot different. This is a B on the G string, the pure B, and here's the pure B on the B string. It's higher by a lot. That's why it sounds so bad, okay? That's why, you know, sometimes you tune and you're like, why can't I ever get the G string in tune? That's because a lot of times that's where the problem ends up being, because people use the system, right? Okay, that was a long explanation to get the guitar out of tune. Okay, so let's try and get it in tune. Okay, back to the tuning fork. Okay, so now this time while I'm tuning, I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment. I know that the ones down the chain, like the D and the G string, they're going to be a little bit flat in relation to the A because they're just intonation ratios. They're not equal temperament. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring them up a little bit, just a little bit. Okay? Right now it's in tune in terms of the beats, but I'm going to bring it a little bit more. That's too much. Just a hair. And the same thing here. Okay, now I'm going to go down. I'm going to tune the E string. Now you got to remember that these pure fifths are going to be a little bit sharp, so I want to actually bring these down a little bit. Same here. Okay, let me try my G chord again. Beautiful, right? And now you could check, you could try play through the keys. I just played a major chord in 12 keys. Sounds pretty decent in all 12 keys. Should be happy with that result. Now, in practice, I would do that pretty quickly, and the guitar would be set up. Don't need an electronic tuner. Just think about how the harmonics and the frets work and kind of train your ear to hear if it's a little bit sharp or flat. All right, thanks for watching, and check out some of the other videos. Check out the book. Thank you.